The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is post-match pish time. I'm joined by the face of P.M.P, Terry Robb, on a night Celtic exit Europe altogether. 3 home games in the promised land of the Champions League. Sadly, not a win to record, just 1 point from a potential 9 at home, 2 points from a potential 15 in the group, a group that was universally described to us all as, fancied, a group we all thought we had potential to not make the Europa League, but to qualify from. That became a pipe dream pretty early on. Tonight, I was full of optimism. I looked at the lineup and I thought, do you know what? Better late than never, Ange. You have now decided to go for the jugular. I think it was a lineup that defines everything we were promised about Postecoglou. I thought it was real cutthroat starting lineup that was, we'll ask the questions, whoever it is we're against, you bring the answers. Shakhtar, to their credit at times, I thought looked a very, very tidy side, regardless of under pressure. I thought, they're passing inside their own area, inside their own half at times is very efficient. And then Mudryk, they have the equivalent to what Wales have in Gareth Bale, an absolute one-off superstar who will hurt any team he plays against, and no matter what the level of his teammates are at, he can carry teams as well. From a Celtic perspective, I felt at times, Terry, tonight, it was a case of the same old, in the sense that I thought the second half we just fell away. The intensity drops, the triple swap's inevitable. We'll get to one of them because I don't care if it sounds like an agenda now. My mind is made up, and it is firmly made up, and in people's eyes don't lie. You cannot keep peddling me pish about this guy being a superstar. But it's not just on him. Sadly, I thought it was another opportunity for Celtic tonight that we blew. And again, it's another £2.4 million squandered from, this time, a winning position against Shakhtar. The second time we've been in a winning position against them. Before we get into it, I know there's a lot of people live, and I hate doing all this shit after a game, but please, if you are watching, hit that like button, hit the share button, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. I hate doing all that crap, Terry. I really do, on the back of the result. What's your takeaways from the game tonight?
I think you've pretty much covered it, that does. I don't know. You could probably play back a recording of any of the post-match pish from this European run, and it'd probably be all the same. We're going into each game full of optimism and coming out of it just full of disappointment and anticlimax. I'm glad you mentioned Mudryk there, to be honest, because there was times that guy. I mean, we think we've got good football players. That's a proper player. There was times he looked like somebody in a computer game that was just a cheap player because he got extra pace, extra strength. Absolutely superb player. I'd be very surprised if he's not playing at a much higher level come next season.
And we can accept those ones, by the way, Terry.
Yeah.
There's none of us are sitting going like, oh, Mudryk was that good and it's not fair. That's the sort of level at Champions League stage I totally accept. I've got
we could still have enjoyed his performance. He could still have played well, and we could still have won the game. We just weren't at it. I mean, I think something you said, I'm not sure what game it was, but it kind of resonated with me today. I was watching the game, and until we got the goal, I was thinking, this is pretty lackluster, pretty uninspiring. Mm-hmm. Then we get the goal, and the goal changes your mood because you're going, actually, do you know what? This is reasonably comfortable home performance in Europe. And then the goal goes against you the other way, and you're going, nah, this has been shite from the start. And you're kind of swayed. You're swayed by the goal. And goals change games. Goals change moods as a supporter. I've just got the highlights on there in the background, just watching some of that stuff. That we could actually argue we were lucky to get a point. I've never seen a miss like that at Celtic Park from that guy in my life. In fact, it's the worst miss I've seen since Aaron Moy at the weekend.
We'll talk about that idiot soon. I don't, I know sometimes it can be quite close to the bone on here, particularly when Judge Kearney's on about certain players, but I feel like I might need to adopt Judge Kearney's wig for one night and one night only when it comes to
what did you make what did you make with how the two up top went, Boise? Because it was pretty much a two up top. In fact, I seen it more as a 4-2-4, and I think we did get exposed a wee bit in the middle of the park with two players in there. I also don't think the two wide players had their best games by any means.
No, I would agree with that. I see, for me, I think Abada, for example, we'll start with him. I think his Champions League campaign this year is highlighted, which, by the way, is fair for a guy of his age. Expectations shouldn't be too high on someone like Abada. He's not 32 and the best midfielder in the world. He's a winger, and he's came from a lesser league than the SPL or the SPFL as it's known now. He's done loads of good things, but in the Champions League he's been found wanting a wee bit, and I think he's struggled with that increase in level. I think he's struggled, but we knew, Terry, going into the season, we kept saying it in the summer, this is a meteoric level Celtic's about to do. This isn't like we can carry on where we've been and we might see signs of progress. We kept saying on this bus, I don't think folk know the table we're about to be dining at. It is huge where we're going to. We can't rest on our laurels in the transfer window, for example, as conversations we had. And Abada, for me, it's been a huge learning curve for him. One, I think, might be very positive for his development as a footballer. The Kyogo Giakoumakis thing. I did pre-match patter, Terry, because there was real excitement when you seen Hacksaw's going to be playing Kyogo Giakoumakis. Let's be honest, it's what we were we were all foaming at the mouth to see this sort of thing, Terry, and it happened. And you're right, there was moments of it where we looked at and we went, I wasn't sure, and I'm still not sure now what it is with Kyogo. I don't know if he's trying too hard right now. He was dropping so deep from, I think the role was, he was meant to play where Hacksaw did against Leipzig, kind of in that number 10 role. And I think you've seen him at the halfway line at times. I don't know if he's over eager to get on the ball and make things happen. He's definitely not playing his natural game right now, Kyogo. None more so epitomised by his attempted left foot finish in the second half, where that's just not him. And I don't want to give him a free pass because I know he's better. We need to look at the instance and say, oh, come on, mate, you need to do better. But I also think if I'm going to be, a wee bit sensitive towards him, I would say that's not the Kyogo we know. That's a guy whose confidence seems to be rock bottom. But Terry, do you know what? Here's my take on it. I'm going to go right into it. Do you think his confidence has been a wee bit almost hampered because of the impact that undeniably Giakoumakis right now, I think, is the fans' cult hero? I think Ange is now kind of saying, subtly, he's actually maybe now my number one striker. And I'm just not sure if Kyogo's reacting to that very well. But if I was him, I'd be looking at Giakoumakis' example over the last 16 months of how to play as a second fiddle when you probably feel it's been unjust. You probably feel hard done by. And look how his meteoric rise has occurred as a Celtic player and as a Celtic stalwart striker. I think right now Kyogo's maybe just feeling the pressure a bit of not being the poster boy anymore. Is that fair? Is that what it is? Or is his confidence just shot?
It's definitely one explanation, Boise. I was thinking, is tonight are we seeing them both in the same team? Because Ange wants to play Kyogo, but he no longer can leave Giakoumakis out to accommodate that.
I think it's an evolution. Yep, I think it's an evolution.
He's definitely shot for confidence. I mean, last season, that chance that we got towards the end, that would he'd have burst the net with that. You'd had absolutely no doubt. Were you confident when he takes a swing to go for it? Not on recent evidence. I mean, I know he scored. Yeah. He scored a goal, but there was no keeper.
Rewind that to Ferencváros, Terry. Remember the Ferencváros when Jota plays that pass? It's just a joke of a ball. And Kyogo's running onto it. It's first time. It's effortless. It's stroked past the goalkeeper. That was European group football, Okay, not Champions League level. But look at the differences in the attitude to those finishes. He's bereft of confidence, mate.
Celtic's goal tonight, had you absolutely any doubt that was going to end up in the net? As soon as you seen it was dropping to Giakoumakis, you knew you could start your celebrations. He was never going to miss. If the roles had been reversed, Kyogo had played Giakoumakis in, that would have been the net. Did you actually pick up on Giakoumakis' pass where he played Kyogo and he sort of
looked the other way?
Yeah. He done Ronaldinho. I actually thought Giakoumakis had a really strong game tonight. I thought he led the line well. I thought he was really strong. He took his goal very well. There was one where he got the ball and he brushed off the defender in the first half and he hit a shot from about 25 that pulled a good save from the goalkeeper. He had both centre halves in the book by the 48th minute as well. Both of them were booked for similar fouls on him.
Very good, Terry. I was going to mention that, mate. Yeah, very good. You notice that?
He's winning free kicks. He's getting guys booked. He's leaving defenders that they can't make any more tackles. One of the things that disappointed me tonight, just when we were on around free kicks, our delivery from free kicks and corner kicks was absolutely abysmal. I thought it was shocking. We couldn't get past the first man. It didn't matter if it was Haksabanovic, it was Moy. Yeah. It didn't matter who it was. First man every time. But just sort of finishing up on Giakoumakis, he's just a gunslinger and he's just ready to pull that trigger from absolutely any angle. My only concern about him is he pulled up with about 10 minutes to go there, and I was actually surprised that he finished. Yeah. Again, I was surprised that he finished the game because it did look as if something might have gone wrong. But we'll know better come Sunday around that.
I'm going to just take David Kelly's point. I tend to choose David Kelly's points. It's not favouritism. I tend to like the cut of his jib. So, David, I hope you're not blushing too much in the comments there. But I like his takes. I've got to agree with this. I didn't think Giakoumakis definitely knew. See, when I started seeing Kyogo at the halfway line in the opening 10 minutes, I thought, what formation are we? Are we playing a different formation than what we kind of envisaged? I don't think we were. I think Kyogo was overeager. And Giakoumakis, remember he had that shot, that another first time finish, where Hacksaw was probably in a better position wide left, but Chaos was so eager to do it, he skies on over the bar, and then I felt at times he was a bit messy in some of his link-up play. And Rooster, who cannot wait to slag off Giakoumakis, which I don't mind, because it's all about different opinions. Rooster would fling Giakoumakis under the Bhoys bus any time. I would do it the same with certain players as well, so I get it. And I just felt that once he scored that goal, the shot you're referring to that was saved, Terry, was absolutely a man full of beans, you could say. He was full of confidence. And you know what? He was like, I'll fucking take the game to you. I love to see that. But what support did he get, really, from Abada tonight, for example? Very little. Haksabanovic, I think in open play was good, but his dead ball crossing, honestly, was... His set pieces were really... Do you know what it was reminding me of? Petrov's. Remember Petrov used to always go for that near post ball? And at times it would infuriate you, and then when he got it right, Sutton would be flicking it on into the net. But it reminded me of those type of balls, Terry. You know, I'm like, fucking, if he goes near post, well, we don't have that type of team, in my opinion, that are going to be making those runs, Terry. But it looked almost like, maybe I'm giving him too much credit here because I like Hacksaw, but it looked like it was deliberate that he was going near post. These low near. Do you think that was a tactic?
No, I'm gonna go the other way. I just think it was poor delivery. I just think it was poor delivery. I mean, other than the goal Jack and Mack scored with the header at the weekend there, when was the last time you've seen anyone attack the front post from a Celtic perspective?
Aye. Terry, see who you want to take the good bits of Celtic. I think Matt O'Reilly epitomised a lot of that today. See the guy, see when he gets the ball in tight areas, he shifts the ball from his left foot to his right foot, his right foot to his left foot, very, very subtly, very quickly. He retained possession well, and I felt as well he was trying to take responsibility, a bit like Chaos post first goal. And I take the point that it wasn't great before that. But what I like to see players take responsibility in games, Terry. And I think O'Reilly is playing beyond his years at times. He needs like folk to look at where he is in his career right now and start thinking, wow, he came for MK Dons under a year ago, and he is the guy in Champions League level, time and again, demanding the ball or pointing to players. He's pointing to Cameron Carter because he's got the captain's arm on where to put the ball in the second half. I really enjoy seeing stuff like that. James Forrest comes on. We're talking about the forward players, and we've talked about Celtic, this whole group, not being clinical enough. I thought James Forrest brought more in that second half than Abada has his whole group campaign, and I don't like to be over dramatic, and I don't want it to sound like I'm not calling Abada a diddy or anything like that, but James Forrest showed what's needed at this level sometimes. He was composed on the ball. He retained possession when it was needed. He was getting help from, honestly, just a joke of a player, and we'll get to that. But other times, Forrest looked, there was a point he puts the ball in, I think O'Reilly opens his boot. Instead of just trying to make that sweet connection, because if he makes that sweet connection, it'll deflect or it'll go on target, and the keeper's got to have lightning fast reactions. I think Celtic at times are guilty of being too clever or trying to be too clever, Terry. I think Forrest brought almost a get balls in the box, beat your man. And if you need to retain the ball, that's fine. You need to play a short pass, then make the decision. But don't always look for that option. I think Celtic are still in this slightly grey area, Terry, of the pressing's great, the attacking philosophy's great, but there's still an area of doubt, I think, when we get to that final third, that we're dressing up as perfect football. There's this extra pass that's getting made, and it makes us almost look like we're being really sophisticated. I actually think there's a nervousness to that.
I thought we were quite poor in that final pass in the final third. I think too often we're looking for that killer intricate pass. If I think back towards the start of the season,
is that a safe option though, Terry? Sorry to cut you.
No, I don't necessarily think it's a safe option.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at the goal that we conceded, if I'm remembering correctly, we were in their half. We had possession and we lost possession. 3 seconds later, the ball was in the back of our net. And I've never seen a team as good or bad, whichever way you want to describe it, as Celtic for that kind of scenario where you've got the ball, you're trying to create an attack. As soon as you lose it, you're completely exposed, and the ball always seems to end up in the back of your goal. But going back to the looking for those killer passes, O'Reilly's always looking for them. Hitate's always looking for them. There were so many times tonight where somebody just stretched out and got a leg, or that pass, it just wasn't quite right, and before you know it, you're on the back foot. And I was guilty of writing Shakhtar off whenever we played them away, and I was actually more impressed with them tonight than I was that night. And I know that they subsequently got a good result at home to Real Madrid as well. And just in terms of this group, when we looked at this group, it was going to be all about all about the three teams away from Real Madrid. We're the only one of those teams didn't get anything from Real Madrid at home. And we give ourselves a pat on the back for a good 50 minutes.
We patted ourselves on the back for getting
Shakhtar got a point off them, and that was only because of a last-minute equaliser, and Leipzig have beat them at home there tonight. So
that's a brilliant point, Terry. That's why you do post-match pish, mate, because I haven't even thought of that yet. But you're spot on. All this.
I remember asking on the night, did we really think Real Madrid were the best team in Europe? Because that's what we were calling them. And yes, they were the champions, and we were supposed trying to drum up our performance kind of thing. I think Real Madrid were very, very fortunate European champions, and I don't think they're anywhere near the best team in Europe. And those two teams have taken points off them at home. We've mustered 1 point from all three home games. It's pretty disappointing, to be honest.
But you're right though. You're right though, Terry. There was a heralding. There was this amazing. We've just went to the best team in Europe. But the other two teams in the group have took points off them. We're celebrating getting beat 3-0. There's subtle differences here that we need to be now. I wanted to call this group. And I'm like a broken clock, I'm right, twice every 24 hours, Terry, I said this is not the group of trust in the process. This Champions League group, with all the expectation, put on, by the way, a lot of the happy clappers, a lot of the folk that can't look at Celtic without a very, very tilted sort of lens, that's in our favour. People that think, everything we do is amazing. Even they were saying, it's a group we can get out of. I'm very intrigued now to know, with 3 home games played and a trip to the best team in Europe now, remember, that's the terminology, as you were right to call out there, still to come, with 2 points from that. I'm ready to gauge the process now, Terry. Ready to gauge it. With that in mind, I did feel there were spells in the game tonight I enjoyed. I was very proud of Angie's lineup. I thought it was the right team. I think that was justified. When the thing is with Celtic, right? They are blowing out their arses, Terry. It's undeniable, right? Whatever style of football this is, I love it. First half in Europe. I think we can keep it going domestically because Ange touched on it midweek. He goes, when you've got more of the ball, it's slightly a different thing. Because he's like, no offense, but when you're playing teams in Europe, it's different. You don't have as much of the ball, and that's obviously far more exhausting. But boy, oh boy, do we look exhausted, Terry. Second half every fucking time. Now, how do you combat being tired? You know who he brings on? The guy who makes tired look energetic. And tonight, of all nights, please, can we put it to bed? There's an agenda, or there's some sort of personal beef with me with Aaron Moy. I don't know the guy for Adam. I don't know what ice cream van it is he toes. It's none of my business. But the one thing can we all now agree on, when I got 3 million quote tweets calling me every name under the sun, and all I did, Terry, was say, ahead of a Champions League campaign, I find Aaron Moy an underwhelming signing. That's all I described him as, Terry. Underwhelming. Boy, was I underwhelmed tonight. He was fucking rank rotten tonight. He was I think at times, you watch us at 91 to 93 minutes, he's getting the ball. He's wanting 1, 2, 3 touches. I don't know what foot he is, but he kept wanting to check back from the right-hand side of midfield onto his left foot. There was a moment where there was a cutback, and if he's just busting along, I don't know if his lungs are burst. I don't know how many fags he's smoking. I don't know if he's smoking more fags than me. I don't know what the story is, but he's nowhere near. See, for all the lessons that Ange keeps telling us he wants us to learn, right, in Europe, a 32-year-old midfielder is a dog that ain't going to learn new tricks. He ain't part of that equation. Whereas this is why the likes of Abada, I'll give him it. He's been on a really steep learning curve, Terry, and he's not performed at this level. Even Kyogo's never played at this level before. And his learning curve's got to be steep because he's at an age where he has to grasp it quick. You know, or any ideas of him going to a Premier League or anything will be out the window. Or even if he wants to spend his time at Celtic, if we're going to be a Champions League team, he needs to learn quick. But Moy ain't going to learn any of this stuff. I think he holds this whole process that we're told to trust back for me, Terry. It's not a personal thing. I don't know the guy for Adam. I'm sure he's sound. He doesn't fit into this whole evolution that we're trying to watch Ange do in Europe. If you can call it that, by the way, because as far as I'm concerned, 2 points from 15 with Real Madrid to go away. I'm underwhelmed by that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we can go round the houses on Moy again and again and again. I mean, when I did actually expect him to start tonight just because he had been starting games. I didn't expect us to go with that a lineup so attacking. I thought it might happen at some point. I thought it could happen in an SPL game against a bottom half side where we would, go all out attack. I didn't expect it to be tonight in the Champions League. But what I also didn't really see, and again, I'm not just as sore on Moy as you, but I didn't see what he was going to bring.
Can I just say though, Terry,
for Kyogo?
It's not even like I'm sore on Moy. I'm sore because of the backlash I got from our fellow fans, and it was all I'd said was the word underwhelming. And see if you'd seen some of the fucking messages I got, it was hate, and this is where I don't feel vindicated or glad that Aaron Moy's being as underwhelming as I expected. It's not about that. But some of the stuff that I received on that maybe fills me with, you're right, more juice in the tank when it comes to talking about his disappointing performances, Terry. Sorry to cut in on that.
No,
that's where I'm coming from in that.
Yeah, no worries, you're grand. I just don't know what do you expect him to do when you bring a player like that on with 20 minutes to go. What are you actually expecting him to do? Because he hasn't really done anything yet that's going to make you think he's going to change this game for us. He's had cameo appearances. He's had a couple of recent starts. I don't know. I think he's been kind of consistent across all the games that he's played. I know there was one game where he was getting a bit of credit, and I was kind of like, I think this is maybe a wee bit OTT. I honestly didn't think he'd been massively different from what he'd been in the other games. It's the one signing, as you say, that doesn't really make any sense. A lot of the other signings all seem to be building towards something, whereas you've now got this guy he's not going to be here in 2 years. As one of the comments there said, he's going to be slower tomorrow than he was yesterday. It's the one signing that just doesn't really fit in with the rest of the signings and the general direction that the club and the manager seem to be going in.
He's not part of the process. Look, I don't want to turn tonight into this is all Aaron Moy's fault that we didn't get the 3 points tonight. There's several reasons why we didn't. One thing I think we need to establish though now is a gauntlet's been laid by Ange. I see it. I sense that there's two ways this could go now with the lineup that he set. Now, we've been guilty on this bus of suggesting, and probably unfairly at times, but it's just emotions run high, And at times we've suggested, he's picking his favourites, and that's why he's not starting. He's starting Kyogo, not Giakoumakis. Ange has two ways to go now. So he could go, well, I told you so, right? It didn't work starting the two of them. That's his gift to do that. We got what we wanted tonight, Terry. We got to see them in the start lineup, and I was as chuffed as anyone that he did. Okay. Then we've got the attitude, though, of will this now be a sign of where Ange is maybe trying to take the team? And it is going to be more attacking than before. And maybe the absence of Callum McGregor has kind of not forced his hand to do it. But when he looks at his number 6 options, Terry, he's not interested in them, right? Even though he's signed them all, no one wants to look at that stuff. That would be me hating on Ange and stuff. That's fine. But let's be honest. He doesn't fancy anyone in that holding role particularly, right? That are signed kind of designed to play in that role, if you like. He's shifted O'Reilly back into it. Are we now maybe seeing the next evolution of or a clue to what the next side to Angie's team is. And that is going to be, it's actually going to be more attacking than ever before.
Potentially, yeah. As I said to you, I didn't expect him just to go as open tonight. I really didn't. I thought that would be a performance for a Celtic Park game against. I'm not even going to name a team. Some of the teams down near the bottom where you can get away with trying something
Rangers.
new. Yeah, one of the shite teams. But I think if you're going to play as open as that, then we're probably going to get a lot more games like last Saturday, aren't we? The ones we were promised.
Listen, I know people want to call it like you've got scapegoats and that. You can only call what you've seen in 90 minutes, right? I'm going to stand up for Angie's starting lineup, Terry. I'll be honest. I would have had Ralston ahead of Juranovic. I knew that wouldn't have happened, right? There's no issue with me on that, right? No issue at all. I knew Juranovic actually had a good game tonight, to be honest. He did very well at times. That was, to me, the dream starting lineup. I could never have predicted Ange would actually play, and I love to see it. And
you could throw Jota on there too.
Well, when you've got Jota and Kalmack missing from that, Jota and Kalmack missing from the most exciting starting lineup we've played this season is really a positive message, Terry. I think it's a positive thing to be talking about going, I was buzzing with that lineup, and yet our captain Marvel, who to me is the most important piece of the whole jigsaw, and then Jota, who is naturally the most gifted player at the football club by a long way, in my opinion. You've got them to add to the mix now. But who needs Kalmack as a number 6? I now want the gunfight in midfield now to be between the Tatty, O'Reilly, McGregor, 2 out of 3. If O'Reilly or Tatty need to sit out.
And Moy.
Aye. Moy will be fucking, he'll be starting fucking away at Real Madrid.
What direction do you think we'll go in on Sunday then?
I think,
team-wise.
This is it. Is he setting a tone now that we're going to go that next level? This is, remember, the type of formation we were kind of promised at the start of Postecoglou's reign. I hope people understand in the comments, by the way, I'm all for this formation. I'm all for it, Terry. Okay, tonight we didn't get the 3 points. That I think
that doesn't mean it won't work, though. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just didn't work tonight.
Agreed. And I think they need more time at it. 100% on board with that, Terry. So how do I think we go at the weekend? I think it would be a negative move now to bring in a number 6 that you don't fancy. I think, I don't think Moyle is warranted now getting a start after that display. I would like to see him go very similar. I'll be honest, I think now's the time we're out. We are out of Europe. Out of Europe on the 25th of October. To me, that is very underwhelming. Okay? And there's not qualifying from the Champions League group, and there's narrowly missing out in the Europa League, and there's finishing the Champions League campaign 2 games early and finishing Europa League qualification chances a game early. Having not played the best team in the group away from home in amongst those 5 games, that is underwhelming. But all roads now lead to domestic trebles. And I think we've got a team across the city on the ropes who I think might... I talk about Celtic scoring 10 sometime. I think Napoli will be reading the Bhoys buses tweets and they're thinking, we might score 10 tomorrow, because I think they're on the ropes. The opportunity is there for us to do a clean sweep domestically still. I think it is there. And I think there's an opportunity to do that in real style. And I would like to think tonight is the first chink we've seen of Angie's next movement for the Celtic team. I think some of it's through default, as I say, by missing players. And I also think he's weighed up his number 6 options, Terry. And despite the fact he's signed them, we'll give him a pass on that, because you're not allowed to criticise his signings. You're not allowed to criticise anything he does. But I'm actually quite glad, because I think this formation, this works for me big time, Terry. This excites me. This gets the bums off seats. This gets the box office status of Celtic on what is undeniably, we need to mask over the fact we're out of Europe on the 25th of October. For a club that turns over nearly £100 million a year, out of Europe before November. Okay. How do we dress this up? How do we get the fans on side? How do we ensure there isn't spare tickets game in, game out? Well, I think Ange has kind of covered that with the type of selection he did tonight. If we see that between now and the end of the season, I think there'll be a lot of excited fans out there.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. It's thinking just around fans there. Next week's a bit of an anticlimax for people heading off out there, which you would expect to be, a really big occasion heading out to play Madrid away from home in Europe, and it's. I'm sure the fans will still have a great time and they'll enjoy it. But even from the players' perspective, it's just a game that's going to get in the way now. We're going to be thinking about Livingston Sunday, and then domestic duty the week after, and that Madrid game is just going to get in the road, and it's just another sort of reflection of how poor a campaign it's been. That you're heading away to play Real Madrid in the Bernabeu, and it's getting in the way. It's a pain in the arse.
It's quite fascinating that
we're probably going to win there now.
You can
probably go win.
You can see that, Terry. You can see it. I think the one thing I would be looking at as well financially, that's quite a big hit. It's not a hit, but it's a missed opportunity. Considering the last time we were in the Champions League was 5 years ago, when we get given the opportunity, and a group universally, people can kid on they've changed their time now, and we're just not good enough for Europe. It was pretty widely thought, Terry, we had the chance in this group, right?
On the day of the draw, boys, I wrote down my preferred team from each group, and Leipzig was the preferred team from each pot. Sorry, Leipzig was the preferred pot 2 for me, and Shakhtar was the pot 3. I thought those were the 2 games that gave us the most opportunity of getting the most points, and I've just been proved badly wrong. But that's disappointing. Just disappointing.
Yeah.
It's just as I keep thinking of something positive to say, and no doubt come tomorrow, I'll be fine. I'll start thinking about Sunday again. Come Sunday, I'll be bouncing. I'll have forgot all about Europe, and I'll not care about it until next year again. But it's just deflating when you've got so much hope. I wouldn't say expectation, but you've got hope, and this was a reasonable draw. This was a draw that we, at the very least, should have been getting Europa League football after Christmas.
What does it do for the mentality of the squad? Because obviously right now, I'm going to go back to it, Terry. This trust the process narrative is what we keep getting pushed by, to me, people who are far, far too ball deep in the club now, to ever challenge anything that they do, right? So trust the process is a really convenient hashtag to go to. Gucci Truther comes in. He says, we should have taken the lead in all but one game so far. I agree. And I think that's a positive message. But all this, we can never compete, is a complete loser mentality. Terry, we've got to also agree with that. We can't just continually hide behind, we just can't. We can't compete. Well, I don't think Postecoglou would have came to Celtic if he thought we couldn't compete. I don't think Jota signs a permanent deal if he thinks we can't compete. I don't think Juranovic gets called up by Croatia if he was in a team that couldn't compete. Of course we can compete. Sadly, the points on the board, though, is what you're defined by across any league campaign. And whether we like it or not, a Champions League group is a league campaign. It's just only 6 games, and the table never lies. We've not been at it. What motivation, though, do we take, Terry, from this? Because obviously right now, if it is a trust the process thing that we're in right now, do you think what's happened so far, i.e. out after 4 games, 2 points from 5, out Europa League, that means, and genuinely now it's called a dead rubber that we've got at the Bernabeu. Does that stimulate these guys to want to go again next year? I certainly would like to think so, right? I certainly would like to think so. But do you think with modern day footballers, do they want to go again? Or do you think some folk might think, fucking hell, it's too big a hurdle. I might be better checking out to a Southampton, a Crystal Palace, a Leicester City, things like that. I hope not, but I do think the argument that we're part of this process to trust becomes more difficult, shall we say. Not because Ange is the one giving it. I think he's the shining light for these players right now. But I do think his convincing of the players to be part of this process to trust becomes slightly more difficult conversation when the outcome of this group's been pretty poor.
I caught Jack and Magnus's interview just after the game, and he was just talking about that very thing. he came across as very disappointed. You could actually hear the Shakhtar players singing the whole way through his interview. You could hear them singing from their changing rooms because obviously they've guaranteed Europa football after Christmas. But he said all we can do is dust ourselves down, get on with it, make sure that we're in this competition again next year and see if we can right the wrongs from this year and take it a step further. I suppose I'll sort of spin it back to you. Is how do we do better next year than we did this year?
Well, the message is, and literally said at a press conference by Postecoglou only 2 weeks ago, I don't believe that we will get any better by changing our style. We have to keep doing what we're doing at this level, and that's the only way to learn. Okay? I like it. I like the philosophy. Two now outcomes Postecoglou has ahead of him. He's now got to convince the board to get better players, in my opinion, to do this philosophy based on the fact I think he will win the title again this year. So if he's got 2 titles in the bank, 2 guaranteed Champions League accesses, that's £80 million he's earned the club. I think he goes with a strong hand and a fan base that back this guy like, honestly, you wouldn't believe. So it's a pretty strong hand to take, but he also needs to be very firm on getting what he wants. At the end of the day, Terry, this is a football team we watched today with only Haksabanovic, I think, that strengthens our first 11. Since saying Jens Starfelt's a toss-up, Jens potentially better, but not, he's a real upgrade on Starfelt. No one thinks that, right? So he's maybe a bit better, but not a huge upgrade, right? So we've got £30 million sitting in the bank at the accounts. So I think this time, if we win the title again, which I fully believe we will, I think the summer message has to be: are we going for it this time round? Are we going to strengthen 3-4 key positions in this team? And that's not because we need to be so saturated in our emotions of, I really like him though. Doesn't mean you can't do better than them and get better players in, Terry. You need to remove the emotion or the emotional attachment and the personal basis that you value players. You need to look at their ability level and go, do we have the funds and the resources to go again and go better? And has the manager earned those? And if that's the case, then the process will develop quicker. Are Celtic willing to be bold and brave enough to do so, Terry? That'd be a question I put back to you.
I sort of, if you recall, during the summer, I was more calling for quality than quantity, and
me too.
I don't know if I could say for sure that Hacksaw was an upgrade to the starting 11. I certainly think domestically he looks an excellent player. Look at our number 6s, for example. I think we count 4 that we are no good. 4 that are no good, 4 that the manager doesn't want, the manager doesn't trust.
We've got McCarthy, Ideguchi, Abildgaard, Moy, all brought in under the current regime. None of them.
4 salaries there. Could we have used those 4 salaries to buy one top-notch number 6 who was going to start every single game for us? That's kind of where my head would be going with it. Instead of bloated numbers, let's go for I'll give you the same word again, Stardust. Let's go for somebody who's gonna put his mark on the team, going to be guaranteed a shirt, going to take us up another level. Because if we don't look to invest in a higher standard of player and we're in the same position next year, then all we're really relying on is that this manager, who is a talented manager, he's going to get an extra 15-20% out of what he's already got, and I don't know if that's possible.
Terry, John Duncan comes in and he's a regular bus passenger, and it's brilliant to have you on, John. But I've got to push back on this sort of take. Where do our fans think we are? We'll end up like Rangers if we keep going out and spending. We will just go bust. I can't believe when you've got a £30 million cash surplus, and I am having a conversation right now predicting we were to win the league again this year, which I'm sure John agrees with, we look likely to do. That would be another Champions League guaranteed qualification because the coefficient will work out that way. I don't understand how it needs to be. Spend a wee bit more than we are right now, be a bit more ambitious, or we'll be bust. There's no sign of Celtic being bust. But I also don't think with the signings we made this summer, we've really went, have we took the Champions League seriously? I'm not quite sure. I think a club with £30 million in reserves and the most exciting addition to our first 11 was under £2 million in Haksabanovic. I think there's scope to speculate a bit more, John. I think there's a huge grey area there, mate, that you are completely deciding doesn't exist. You cannot be as black and white as spend more, go bust. This is fucking nonsense, Pat, Terry. We nearly turned over £100 million in the most recent year accounts. £30 million cash surplus in the bank. We've had Champions League money this year. We will probably be very close, if not break that £100 million turnover barrier in the next set of end of year accounts. Terry, there is an area, there is a grey area where Celtic could speculate a bit more and enhance that first 11, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. We touched on it so many times during the summer. We're still spending fees that we spent on Chris Sutton, John Hartson, those guys. We're still spending the same amount of money. So we haven't. We haven't moved. Get your
Who's
on.
it signed him? Hey!
Do you know what I mean? Nobody's expecting Celtic to go out and spend 40 million on somebody.
No.
30 million, 25 million. But we can move up into the kind of bracket where some of the other teams of our size who are competing on the Champions League level, just throw a name out there, for example, Bruges. I think I looked at their transfers. They'd quite a few players around 6, 7, something like that. But then they had one signing where they've obviously pushed the boat out. They've gone 14, 15 for one individual player. And you can see they've obviously got their signing policy spot on during the summer, and they're having a good Champions League campaign, and they'll recoup all of that money back again.
Absolutely. Terry, this is the thing, right? And I know it's so easy for people to go, oh, money it's not an exact science. I get that. See, when the club's revenue goes up, Terry, I want their expenditure on player per player to go up in tandem with that. I don't think that's much to ask. I don't think we're reinventing the wheel here, big boy. I think when we bring in £40 million guaranteed just by winning the league 5 months ago, right? See, when we've done that, I would then expect the standard or the fee of player, not because it's all about the fee. If Ange can find a million gem like Matt O'Reilly at £1.5 million, who he knows is of that ability, fine. But let's be honest, across the board, you would tend to think that maybe the average fee of a player would rise in tandem with the fact the club's percentage of turnover has risen similarly. Right now, we're in a situation where Celtic refuse to do that. Celtic refuse. And one thing we've got to be very careful of here is we've got a manager winning the league only gets us 5 million. John Terry, do you want to explain to John how it's not just 5 million for winning the league? Because I feel like I'm maybe going round the houses, round in circles.
As with last season, John, the Scottish League champions are guaranteed a place in the group stages of the Champions League. If we go on to win it this season, then yes, we get the pittance that you get for winning the title from the money within Scottish football, but you're also guaranteed the 40 million for playing in the group stages of the Champions League next year.
Thank you, Terry, because it's exhausting trying to make that point. You know, it's not about what the SPFL give us. We all know that's a pittance. By the way, Terry, do you know if we had one tonight, we'd have doubled our domestic TV revenue in just one match in 190 minutes. Is that not something to strive for, to have success in the Champions League? I think people think when we say competing in the Champions League, they think we're going to make the last 4, the last 16. Tell you what, Terry, go out, finish third, and rack up 2 wins, 3 wins. There's $10 million. Just even like that.
Even there tonight,
40 million, mate.
Even there tonight, I know that amongst the fans, that the chat was kind of dead rubber. But I would have said that in the boardroom, it certainly wasn't a dead rubber with £3 million being available for winning a match. So I'd say the onus was certainly on Ange to try and secure those points.
If Monty's saying I'm spot on, by the way, we're doing something right tonight,
Must
Terry.
be.
I tell you what. But we're going to leave it there. It's 5-11. What I want the 242 people watching live right now, though, to know, for the first time ever, tomorrow morning, we do our first ever midweek morning show. It's going to be a weekly thing. I am going to be every Wednesday morning doing your drive to work, I don't know, if you're getting ready for work, your routine is now going to be jumping on the bus at the same time. Between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, we do our first ever Bhoys Breakfast Bar. We will obviously be talking about tonight's match. We'll also be talking and looking ahead to the weekend's fixtures and all the nonsense in between with the same usual high energy input that I will try and provide. It'll be a big test there to see if I'm like this at 8 a.m. in the morning, the same way I am at nearly 11 p.m. at night.
What time you starting? 8
a.m. to 9 a.m. We'll be the first Celtic pod, because the one thing is about us, Terry, we don't, the ones that are massive don't need to do it. The ones that want to get big aren't prepared to do it. It's that simple. We will do a breakfast show once a week on a Wednesday morning between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. And we will dissect a wee bit more tomorrow with Johnny Logue, what happened last night, where it sees Celtic's future. And we'll look, obviously, at the week ahead for Celtic domestically as well. 200 odd watching, though, tonight. Thank you so much for joining. It's been a campaign that's finished a game early, completely out of Europe. I am disappointed. Ange doesn't want anyone to be despondent. I think there's a few. But anyway, Terry, we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me tonight. And thank you to everyone in the comments. I know there's a heated amount of debate in there. I know there's loads of varying opinion. But you know the one thing, me and Terry will go and chat about this after the show. We love that. We want that. None of us think this is an echo chamber. We don't think we're right on any of this stuff. We actually encourage the difference of opinion. So please do keep that coming in the comments. But yes, we will see some of you anyway, bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for the Breakfast Bar Show. Terry, anything you'd like to add before we go?
Nah, just I'm nearly over it already, boys. I'm thinking about Sunday already, and we need to get to that macaroni and do what we did the last time. Get the points and get back down the road again. That could still be a sticky one on Sunday, but hopefully not.
Start Giacomakis, we win the game.
Did you see as well the Chuckle Brothers? The Chuckle Brothers are going to Ibrox together on Saturday as well. Did you see that?
What?
Nick Walsh and Stephen McLean.
Well, yeah. that is a perfect way to tee up tomorrow morning show. How these tag team manages to remain in place.
Unreal. To you, to me.
The real brothers of destruction. Terry, I'll see you soon, mate. Thanks again, pal.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.